name is Laura Matukaitė. Welcome everyone to today's panel, physical panel and CC webinar live session on a topic of wholesale industry. We would like to thank Deutsche Telekom for sponsoring the session and Max for sharing his presentation with us today. We would also like to thank Eric for moderating the session and our panelists for sharing their knowledge. Now I would like to invite Vida, our CEO, to share her welcome speech with us.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning. Yeah, CC friends, members, partners who are joining us live here in Berlin in Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Good morning, good afternoon also all our members and partners who are joining us today virtually, since some of you might have afternoon time currently, and all our audiences for watching and listening. For those who are joining us here in Berlin, I hope you had a good start and a safe journey to Berlin. And those who are joining virtually, I hope you all are in good health. On behalf of the CC team, it's my job, I guess, to officially welcome you all, and to both here in Berlin and also virtually at our CE 2020 GCCM in Berlin. And thank you sincerely all for all your efforts to make it here and joining virtually. And also our all official partner sponsors for their continuous trust and support to make it happen together successfully. Despite the challenging past 6 months, we are very proud at CC and together with our partners help to launch our first hybrid CC events in Berlin, the Messaging Summit, our CE GCCM, and also our CC Global Awards tonight. They will be all broadcasted live as well. And myself very happy for those who have travel restrictions to be able to today to watch and be with us remotely. It's a big milestone in our history, and very happy to share this news with all of us. Once again, we showed that together we are strong and together we can make it also. Special thanks goes to Deutsche Telekom team for their support in sponsoring this today's both physical and CC webinar live session. Thanks, Max, for joining and giving later your inspiring presentation. We are looking forward. And also thank you for Paul, for Melvin, Bernard, Ignacio, for joining remotely. It's really nice to see you all again, yeah, even if it's on the screen, but it's a nice feeling. And Eric, thanks a lot for the moderating, of course. Sanda, thank you so much for being with us here in Berlin physically and sharing all of you sharing your insight and knowledge with all of us. We're all looking forward. I wish you all a successful session and also see a GCCM and CC Messaging Summit event in Berlin, and hope to see you all at the future CC events, whether it's live or it's hybrid. And wish you all stay safe, healthy, and have a nice event here in Berlin. Thank you. And over to you, Max, to share your presentation.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. Sorry, I can't be for safety reasons in Berlin today. So welcome to the new normal. Welcome to my home office here in Düsseldorf, Germany. I hope you can see my presentation. And I think in the past few months, it became more obvious how important the internet is actually for all of us. But when something is so important as the internet, there are attackers that are violating or fight against it. And we fight against these hackers who are not coping with the, we try to cope with those solutions. And that's why we, for a long time, we've developed strategies against DDoS attacks. And now we invented something to do a carrier-grade DDoS defense solution on the application level as well, which I'd like to share with you today. When it comes to what actually is a DDoS attack, basically, a DDoS attack is an attack caused by a hacker where they typically use a botnet to fight against or to take down any kind of application, any kind of service. These are traditionally done by volumetric DDoS attacks, which basically saturate the internet link of a specific customer or entire carriers. And but more and more in the past couple of years, application layer attacks became more common, or state extortion attacks. With application layer attacks, they target on a specific application. They typically are very small in size. Same as state extortion attacks, they are typically targeting the state table of firewalls. And the firewalls is usually the weakest part of the entire chain in a customer setting. If the firewall is taken down, it's basically nothing works anymore. And this is what we've seen with many of our customers. And this is something where we try to help them, and we help them mitigating those kind of attacks. But of course, also carriers are attacked themselves. So this is why we have a huge experience in fighting against DDoS attacks ourselves. So traditionally, retail customers are attacked very, very often. You can't imagine how often, so several thousand times a month we see those attacks. Why is a retail customer attacked? Well, this mainly comes from the online gaming. So if you're good in a certain online game and you try to win, and there are people are betting on some of those online games, it's a very easy thing to DDoS one of your major competitors in a specific game that he's can't make use of his internet access anymore, and is then basically losing the game. So this is something that happens all the time. And for one specific customer, that's very easy to cope with, but the problem is it causes collateral damage to its, let's say, virtual neighbors. So this is a very big topic, but also enterprises. So imagine everybody used to work at least from home in the past 6 months. And if the internet gateway of the company or the cloud connectivity of a company or whatever is DDoSed and not available anymore, then there's no chance to work, basically. So, or imagine a platform where we work together today, such as Zoom. We all rely at this moment on a platform of a specific provider. Imagine this provider is DDoS in this moment. An event like this in a hybrid mode would not be possible. But looking at more at the carrier side, of course, the network infrastructure itself, and not only the customers are targeted, and also specific services areas are targeted more than others. A typical example of that are DNS servers, because if the DNS server of a carrier is not working anymore, there's trouble for the internet access for the domain service for every customer that belongs to that carrier. So this is why DNS servers are under certain observation of every carrier, hopefully, because it's a very well-known target, basically. But also data centers in the hosting environment, either within the carrier space or outside of the carrier space, are very well-known and typical targets. So looking back at the attacks, for every kind of attack, there's basically a solution. So with volumetric DDoS attacks, we've deployed a number of years ago one of the largest mitigation platforms within the backbone of Deutsche Telekom, within our core autonomous system, the AS3320, where we temporarily route basically traffic in case of an attack through this platform, which is globally distributed, and mitigate the attack. So we literally, as you can see, that's why I love to use that washing machine icon. We literally wash the traffic, sort out the bad one, and only send the good traffic through to the customer network or the customer application. A platform like this is typically only activated when there is a volumetric attack, so i.e. huge volume. So typically customers have, I don't know, 1 gig, 10 gig, 20 gig of internet capacity, but those attacks can be hundreds of gigs. So in the industry, we have seen terabit attacks and more than a terabit attacks as well. And this platform can cope with those kinds of attacks. So the traffic is temporarily rerouted on the platform, it's mitigated there, and only the washed and clean traffic is sent back. But it's hard to detect those tiny little application layer attacks because we on a day-to-day basis as a carrier, we carry terabits of traffic. And a small application layer attack, it's a few megabits, even smaller. And this is why to have a combination typically, this is why customers deploy an on-premise device that is sitting typically between its router and firewall on-site, on-premise at the customer venue. And basically all the traffic goes inline through that specific device. Typically they are redundant, so the customer has typically 2 of these devices. And it then mitigates the application layer attacks inline within the on-premise solution. But what happens if there is a larger attack, as a multi-vector attack, for example, coming? So in combination, for example, with a terabit volumetric attack. So in this case, this device which sits on site is not capable of mitigating this attack because it's too small. And the link, the internet itself, would be saturated because it's up front. So the traffic is then, or the device basically signals to its big brother in the backbone and asks for help. Yeah? So this signaling is a combination then, or enables a combination of fighting against these DDoS attacks with this large volume filtering capabilities and the small application layer filtering. And this is called a hybrid approach. So you basically combine both worlds. You combine the large volumetric mitigation capabilities and the small detection capabilities, which are typically sits on site. But there's only one problem with its solution. These on-premise devices are pretty costly. They're very difficult to maintain on site. So typically it's a managed service that's also run by us for the customer. It's very hard for customers to operate them 24/7, to have educated staff on site 24/7 because it's very resource consuming. And these devices are not cheap, obviously, and you have to basically, they're not scaling by nature. So when the customer does an upgrade from 10 gig to, or from 1 gig to 10 gig, they typically have to get new devices on site. So the scalability and grow by size on a subscription level, this is not what it's very good at. But on the other hand, until now, there has no carrier grade of devices available in the market to mitigate application layer attacks. But we needed them in order to protect ourselves and to protect certain service areas. And that's why we looked into the solutions, and we basically found the idea to move that on-premise device in a much larger scale within the backbone of Deutsche Telekom. So we basically now have a combination available of on-premise mitigation, which is now done no longer on-premise, it's done within the network of Deutsche Telekom, and all the traffic runs through that cluster and mitigates those attacks at any point in time, as it works inline and it's always on. So basically that function is now moved into the Deutsche Telekom backbone, and traffic to those specific customers who signed up for this new DDoS Defense Platinum services are always on that platform. And just in case there is a large attack upcoming, and I mean with large, I mean actually 300 gigabit, 400 gigabit. So those really, really large attacks. Only in those cases of attacks, basically, and then there is a signaling towards our traditional mitigation platform, which sits in the backbone and does basically some sort of pre-filtering to scale this traffic down in order to make the on-prem, the Platinum service device cope with that attack. And the good thing is that's all done in our network. So traditionally, those services were available on the market by certain cloud providers, but in that case, traffic has to be 3 times rerouted through the internet to third-party autonomous systems, to third-party networks. But in this case, and in with our solution, it all stays within the Deutsche Telekom network. And this is basically the key advantage of that solution. So thank you very much, and I hope you have some questions, and I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Max. Thank you very much for sharing with us, and your presentation has been utmost interesting. Just checking, let's say virtually, if we have some questions or maybe some questions for Max here in the room. I'm looking at everybody. A lot of people are still sleeping here, Max. Can you hear it? It's so silent. It's so silent. Okay, anyway, let me ask you a question, because and you know which question is coming, of course. Examples. Do you have an example for us where you can state that, listen, we detected it, and let's say our washing machine and dryer worked?
You mean real life examples from real life customers that have attacks that we have been mitigated?
Yes, exactly. And then yes, please.
Yeah, well, obviously, it's very hard to we have plenty of examples, but we're literally not allowed to share them, because customers appreciate our service, because that solution is within the network and it's not visible to the outside. Mm-hmm. Unless with cloud providers, where everybody on the internet sees that this specific customer is protected by a certain solution. With our solution, you only see this is a DT customer as millions of others, but you don't see that this specific customer uses our DDoS defense solution. Mm-hmm. Customers are not really willing to share as reference there, but let's say we have in all the important segments, automotive, banking, finance, insurance, many government organizations, or governments actually, they are all under our umbrella of protection, basically. Mm-hmm. So out of many large corporations in Germany and Europe and governments, we have a majority of them protected there. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Max, and of course I do respect your answer, which is obvious. But I mean, again, it is we see the need of being, let's say, having and choosing a provider which is absolutely protected and protecting his customers. So thank you. You can, Max, if you would be so kind to share screen. If you take that up, if you stop that, thank you so much. So we can so we can move ahead, and thank you, and hi guys. For here, I think that you only see me. There is Sander, of course, for everybody out there, and everybody in this world. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm happy to have you with us. So what are we going to discuss today? Let me have a peek. Yes. The digitalization in the wholesale industry, and the challenges and the opportunities which are actually emerging from the data-hungry products and services. So, and thank you again, Max, for hosting this, having Deutsche Telekom hosting this panel session. We are actually with many, as we can see. So next to myself, we have, of course, 6 people in this panel. I will give them a quick minute to introduce themselves. So, Max, please, if you can, we didn't hear enough from you yet, so please kick off and do a quick introduction, and then we'll take it over from you.
Yeah, sure. So thanks again for having me. My name is Max Röttgermann. I'm working for Deutsche Telekom Global Carrier, formerly known as ICSS. I'm a product manager for IP Transit and DDoS Defense Solutions, and I'm with ICSS for more than 10 years, and I'm with DT for almost 20 years.
So you're the veteran within Deutsche Telekom, right? Sort of.
Do I look like?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Thank you, Max, and again, honor having you. Ignacio, hola, ¿qué tal?
Muy bien, buenos días.
Vale, buenos días.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Ignacio García Comín, and I'm very pleased to be with you today. I work for Telefónica International Wholesale, and I'm in charge of a business unit that runs digital services and mobility that covers from IPX to IoT, signaling and digital messaging. I'm 10 years in Telefonica right now, and I hope I will bring something today for you, and it's about what things we are doing in Telefonica International from both sides, the internal side regarding the digitalization of our services, and then the way we engage and how we have changed the way we deal with our customers.
Gracias, Ignacio. So let's move, I think, to Paris, which with let's say an Australian taste and sense of it. Bernard, good morning.
Look, no Australian in me, I'm afraid. Yeah,
but Telstra is right.
Bonjour, guten Tag, grüß Gott. So yeah, Bernard Bush. I look after Telstra's internet sales and peering globally, based in Paris, France. Been in the telecoms business since dinosaurs roamed the earth, I think. Nice to see you all again.
Thank you so much, and a pleasure having you again on one of the panels here. So really appreciate it. Paul, good morning to you.
Good morning, everybody.
Where are you sitting? Where are you hiding for us?
Actually, I'm sitting in Budapest right now, and also as a workplace. So I'm working from Budapest, where Deutsche Telekom International's headquarters is located. I work for TTI. I can't even count for how many years, but it's close to 20. And of course, its predecessors. I'm the Market and Commercial Development Director of the TT Group, responsible for the large-scale development projects, new dark fiber routes, new submarine cables, and actually anything what's new and can move forward the TT Group and offer a good growth opportunity for us.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Paul. I think that then we'll take the plane, and from Budapest, it's roughly an hour to Rome. So Melvin, good morning to you. Happy to have you.
Yeah, good to see everybody, even if it's partially virtual. Yeah, my name is Melvin de Jonge. I work as a product and offer manager in Sparkle, the global carrier arm of the Telecom Italia group. Also, more than 10 years in Sparkle and more than 20 years in the Telecom Italia group. So I see similar cases here around. And before that, I used to work for a Dutch operator in the Netherlands. And yeah, okay. So basically, I'm dealing with mobile connectivity, with signaling security, and with advanced analytics. And it's good to see many peers around in the panel as well. So good.
Thank you so much, Melvin. And then we go live to Berlin because somebody joined us as well, and it's our sixth panelist. I'm very happy and honored to have him again, as most of you in my panels. Sander?
Well, thank you for having me. Sander Barends, I'm the Chief Commercial of Xperio. For those who don't know Xperio yet, you should be by now. We're a managed service provider specialized in internet access and software-defined WAN for multinational corporations. We also help our channel customers, we'll talk about wholesale later today, with enabling them to be able to offer that solution to their clients as well.
Okay, thank you, Sander, and let's get started. Ignacio, you were happy to tell me actually two things. You were actually saying, listen, I would like to share with everybody what we're actually doing in Telefonica nowadays, and how you actually fought actually and still finding actually the challenges you were facing within the digitalization of our industry. Can you elaborate a little bit on this one and share your thoughts and the lessons that the Telefonica learned within and also externally?
Sure, thanks for the question. Well, from one side, I think that from the product perspective, if we see all the changes that has happened since all people who are in the panel have seen big changes in the last years, but probably not as many and as fast as we have seen in the latest years. No, So if we talk about, let's say, messaging, for instance, we were talking about SMS, and now we are talking about RCS, we are talking about WhatsApp Business, and what's more important, all the changes that are behind, let's say, just the pure graphical user interface. No, digitalization has affected the telecom industry, but as well the rest of, let's say, the companies in any other verticals. And what we have seen is that, let's say, internally, as much as we digitalize our services, we provide a better service and a faster delivery. And on the other side, what we have seen as well is that as a wholesaler, there is a big shift. We were just pure, I would say, transactional. If we take the services that we were handling, IP capacity, voice, etc., it was a pure transactional relationship between, very collaborative, but transactional between us and our partners. Some of them are today in the call. But what we have seen is a shift because of the digitalization regarding a more channel management relationship. So if we take, for instance, IoT or messaging, our customers, actually we don't call them customers anymore, we call them partners. What they request us is to be much more involved in the operations, in the way they define the products, in the way they approach the customers, in the way they run the service internally. And to make a long story short, this is not new. We have been partnering in many other industries, but I think the big change is coming again from the graphical user interface. What we have developed is a portal. So we try to set all the relationships, contract, order forms, management, for instance, in IoT, of the SIMs, everything in digital portal and digital interaction. So everything is related on the connectivity that Max was explaining at the beginning and very well protecting. No? So it's a big change. Internally, a lot of things happening, and we are, let's say, moving into a digital partner relationship with our customers.
Okay, thank you, Ignacio. Melvin, I know that Telecom Italia, of course, has has always been there and will always be there, but it has also not been easy, actually, as we speak, to make that not only the transition but also the transformation. So, can you share with us a little bit about, let's say, in general, how did you cope, let's say, the digital transformation within Telecom Italia?
Well, a lot of things that Ignacio already mentioned, yeah, they look quite familiar to me as well. So also, we are putting lots of efforts into new portals, for example, in order to give a proper assistance to the customers. Which, by the way, also, yeah, we call them often partners as well. So yeah, it's quite funny to see that, yeah. Also, Sparkle is going into the same direction, more or less. Obviously, yeah, you encounter some child diseases in the beginning because it's quite new with new processes. People have to get used to new methods of working and new operational processes and so on. But yeah, I agree that it's definitely a very interesting age to live in this industry because things are going quite fast, especially if you compare it to 5 or 10 years ago. I mean, yeah, quite a dynamic things are going on. So we're trying to make the best out of it, and we are sure that we will manage.
Yeah. No. Okay. Thank you so much, Paul. To Telecom, of course, a lot of things happened, a lot of new things arrived over the last couple of years. But I can imagine that as well within to Telecom, you needed to do, let's say, and had to adjust a little bit on the business strategies with regards to the digitalization. Is that true? And can you share with us your experience in this one?
Yes, thank you for the question. It's very much true, I should confirm. Basically what I see and what we could hear from Ignacio and Melvin as well, I believe digital transformation requires a higher speed for everything, quicker reply to the customers, faster implementation times, everything faster, bigger and stronger. So this is along TTI develops itself. Just an example, if you consider the major backbone elements, the DWDM systems,
yes,
which could carry, let's say, 3-4 years ago, 8 tera maximum over a fiber pair. Today we are talking about 24-25 tera on the same fiber pair. And then we haven't even mentioned the new technology opening the L-band on the same fiber, which will again double even the 20+ tera capacity over the same fiber pair. Mm-hmm. So this represents such an enormous increase in the volume of the data you can push through on a system from one point to another, which changes, let's say, the whole digital world, not just specific elements. Also, these systems make us possible extreme fast implementation. It's today not that a technician should go to site, install cards, etc. It's much rather a configuration command in the system and maybe a patch at the end data center, and your 100 gig service is up and running immediately. So I think these things are changing fast. For me, this is an emblematic element of the digital transformation: speed, volume, fast services.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Bernard, what were your challenges?
Well, yes, I think we've been talking a lot about carriers, but you know, in this world, the carriers and OTTs, I mean, that world has started to come together as well. That's changing, I think, the way that carrier business operates, and is you have to think a little bit about, you know, how your carrier customers are going to interact with your OTT customers. The two, especially in the transformed world that we operate in now, very much interlinked. That's kind of why I exist, because I'm kind of making the glue between the two worlds. Mm-hmm. And you know, as we've seen those bandwidths that we're talking about, the biggest users of them are actually no longer the carriers, but actually the hyperscalers, as most of you will probably have seen. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a major change in the carrier business. And also the prevalence of the internet. I think it's kind of more and more important that overall in the organizations we understand, you know, how the internet fits together, how the different you know, the CDNs and everything. I'm not sure that that's something historically carrier teams have kind of dealt with so much. So I think that's a major change in culture and the way we operate.
Okay, thank you, Sander. Having your network around the world, being a global player with Xperio. What is your experience within the digitalization and actually the transformation which it brings with it? And repeating, what were the challenges that you saw, and how did you address it? Maybe you have an example. So,
thank you. Yeah, digital has been always in the center of what Xperio does. And if you look at the services that we provide to our customers, regardless of our go-to-market, we're dealing with a very difficult component in the whole global networking, which is the local access. So in order to understand what access is available at a location somewhere around the world, we have to deal with a lot of data, and that's so much data we've never been able to process that manually. So we had to start digital in order to become scalable and provide that intelligence back to our customers. So digital has always been in the center of what Xperio stands for. And if you look at our latest acquisition, which is a platform play for the company called Concept a couple of months ago, they had developed a next generation API platform that doesn't just check availability and pricing, but also is able to digitize, automate the much longer part of the journey and the whole fulfillment and billing part as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important, especially in the carrier-to-carrier wholesale, and that you can support your customer with providing intelligence so that they can make a data-driven decision on what they need in order to support their customer, which is typically an enterprise. So we try to map that out through the customer journey and see where we need to automate in order to make that difference, which either lower the cost to quote or lower the cost to serve, so that you can add more value and go from a very high touch maybe to a medium touch from a carrier to carrier, but that enables your carrier customer to have more time to deal with their customer and really add value to their customer journey. There's one danger in this whole automation, especially in the wholesale carrier-to-carrier industry. Data quality is clearly very important. And you see a lot of our supplier, or golden partners now as well. Yeah, our supplying partners.
We keep on changing in our industry.
Trying to jump onto this digital bandwagon, but they move too quickly. They don't have their internal data in order yet. So when they start exposing that through APIs, you're not really looking at quality information. So that's a danger. And the other danger is the automation itself. It takes away the human interface. So you really need to balance that out with bringing that back into the relationship so that you can really go into a partnership rather than a purely automated transactional relationship with them. That's not so. That's not how we feel it.
No, I understand. Thank you. Max, next to, let's say, the security, and which is, of course, one of our biggest topics within our industry. But how do you think that, let's say, an operator or other telcos can prepare themselves actually, and what are the key elements to watch for actually? Because we all talking about it. We all have, let's say, the different elements and the different topics, and of course also in this platform we try to address them regularly and surely. But how do you think that the guys out there, our peers in the market, can prepare themselves? What do they have to look for, and how can you support them?
Yeah, well, I think one trend you can see for many years now, but it becomes more and more obvious, is the shift between wholesale and business and enterprise customers. So that line becomes very, very thin. And this became, I think, it becomes even thinner, but because due to digitalization, customers can more and more easy, and I mean customers, I mean traditional business or enterprise customers or hyperscalers, they can more and more easily step into that wholesale market, because with digitalization, transactions become more efficient, and they can easier step in the field of traditional wholesale carriers.
They've easy access.
Yeah. So the access to the market is very easy. And digitalization, as you just mentioned, if I may add on this, is basically also a pretty big driver for ourselves, for our customers and our partners. Because we enable, as wholesale carriers, traditionally we enable digitalization, because without our services, there is nothing to be digitized. Yeah. But if we don't digitalize ourselves in a proper way and act to the market forces, that means speed, quality, and things like that, we might become obsolete some point in time. Yeah. So this is a very, very important thing to closely watch the market, to be fast, agile. I like to overuse that word, but agile and adopt to things. And digitalization means also visibility. So my panelist colleagues and we touched the topic of customer portals. That means visualization and implementation speed for customers. And this is something also we do a lot of. We have a subsidiary called Benox, where we can use traffic analytics within large carrier networks, that you know from which peer and which transit customer traffic comes into your network and leaves your network, for example. But also on the security side, we do it a lot, that you see where it actually comes the DDoS attack from, where is the botnet sitting, what kind of attack vector is targeting you, and how it is actually mitigated. So this visibility is one of the key drivers for digitalization as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Ignacio, how can you support your customers, and what can they do to be prepared, and how can Telefonica help them?
Well, I agree with what we have said regarding fast and bigger and more agile. So obviously, from the internal point of view, we need to make things happen so we deliver quickly. Coming back to the way we engage, we have defined a partners program, and basically it's an umbrella that provides, let's say, all the relationship for an IoT partner who wants, let's say, the connectivity that Telefonica is providing, and they can do almost everything. So they have the interface, they have the contract, they have access, they admin basically the install base, and as well we engage with them a lot from, let's say, the RFP's point of view when there is a deal, no? Mm-hmm. So basically the relationship is with the portal and with the partners program umbrella different to what we were doing. And what is interesting as well, I think is Melvin who said it's the appification of the service in messaging, and this is tricky because for us is different. We were used to only work with routers and lines, and now we are forced to deal with a different type of animal, which are the APIs. But with messaging, this is capital. So we are investing in having agile groups, people very, I would say, specific with the skills appropriate to handle this relationship with our customers. But at the end, it has to be fast. It's true. So let's say the traditional way carriers have been developing the service is evolving very quickly. And actually, we have defined, starting right now, I think it's 8 digital work streams to speed up some key services. No? So everything is changing.
Okay. So Paul, how are you and Deutsche Telekom, let's say, helping the market, maybe with some new solutions and services? Can you give us an example how you can support your peers in our industry?
Yeah, actually TTI was a traditional wholesale company, telecom wholesale company. So we much rather dealt with the traditional capacity, IP, etc. services, and not security. Over the past years, it became obvious that we cannot just neglect this layer of the telecom world. So TTI made serious developments on 2 areas. First, its own internal systems. So we introduced a brand new, let's say, software level protection for all the TTI systems in use today. That has been finished just something like 4 or 5 months ago. And now we are living with the new systems, which obviously cause some difficulties to get used to the new practices, the new life, new internal life and changes, but now it goes smoothly. The other side is, of course, for our customers, for our partners. So we, let's say, implemented a new group within our IT department dealing with the data security products, and TTR started to offer these kind of services to its customers. We are still in the initial phase of this transition, but I think this is a very much successful direction, and I believe this simply cannot be missed by any serious telecom operator today.
Okay, thank you. Bernard, Telstra, everywhere. We see you everywhere. So how are you supporting our industry?
How are we supporting the industry?
How are you actually? Why should they listen to you and to Telstra?
Sorry, can you speak up? I can hear you a little bit better.
And why should they listen to you and to Telstra?
Okay.
How are you supporting us?
So look, I mean, I guess, you know, it's Asia is an interesting part of the world to deal with at the moment. A lot of political uncertainty, but also it's an area where many of the changes are being led. So Korea, Japan, Australia, probably some of the markets where 5G is being implemented maybe earlier than in others. I mean, you had some questions about that that you planned. And at the moment, it's difficult to know what 5G, for instance, will bring. But I mean, apart from more bandwidth, but you know, I think the real value of it will come only when the worlds of 5G and OTTs, artificial intelligence, all of that collide, and the value will come from there. So look, we're definitely one of the biggest players in our part of the market in terms of providing hyperscale for some of the for the big five, and we're very much across what's happening with the internet providers, the cloud hosters, etc., and enterprises. So we sit across carriers, enterprises, and OTTs across the region, which is one that's developing very rapidly. So yeah, I think what we can bring is, you know, in our region there are in certain areas maybe Asia is ahead of Europe, and so there's things maybe we can bring from our market into Europe. And we sit across a lot of the developments that are happening in the forefront of the technology, given that we're just providing a lot of the backbone capacity to the players that are leading, that are driving what's happening in the market.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Melvin, Bernard was just tipping on 5G and what 5G will do for us. And Telecom Italia being, of course, a global player and a mobile operator as well. How do you see that the 5Gs, and maybe also on the latencies or the solutions and services which come from it, will enhance your portfolio for your customers?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, Erik, because 5G for sure will bring a larger shift towards the enterprise market. So not anymore just serving the traditional wholesale market of operators, because 5G is very fit for also with network slicing and so on, very fit for the enterprise market. So I think that global carriers will have to embrace more and more the retail business market, the enterprise market. For sure that will happen. And in Sparkle, it's already happening, as a matter of fact. yeah, we have a kind of a task force seeing how we can move as fast as possible to the enterprise segment more and more, because obviously Sparkle already since many years sells services to multinational companies. But anyway, it will be also enriched to other types of enterprises.
Okay.
And that's because of the nature of 5G. Then coming back to what Max said, he said that yeah, enterprises are for them it's becoming easier to move and to act as a wholesale operator. I would say that it's also the other way around, that the global carriers can yeah, address different markets than before. So yeah, for sure it's a two-way mechanism. 5G, as you know, yeah, you can't just speak anymore only about connectivity, because that's a commodity. So around the connectivity services, yeah, the companies will have to take care of supplying also advanced analytics through portals, security, for example, which is becoming more and more increasingly important. As a matter of fact, Sparkle recently has also established a kind of a portfolio of security services, not only for mobile operators combating the weaknesses of SS7 and diameter, but also to enterprise segments. Okay. So global carriers and Sparkle will become more and more IT, cloud, and security players, and not only a network-oriented service operator. That's for sure.
Okay, Max, switching back to you, 5G, and of course with your, I would say, almost say T-Mobile group with you, and who, of course, with which you have to service as well from your position. How do you see it's impacting actually business strategies within Deutsche Telekom in the group? How is it 5G? How is it driving actually the whole group?
Yeah, well, it's one of the big things that are that come up and will shape somehow our future, because it's a technology that enables things that weren't possible before, especially in the mobile world. For example, guarantee of access or bandwidth were, as a matter of fact, per design in the past in mobile networks not possible. And now with network slicing, for example, you can guarantee a specific customer, for example, for a broadcasting event, you can guarantee him a network slice on your network. And this has not really been possible before. You could do it technically in the past on networks, but this is not what carriers would like to do. And it opened up new business models and new applications basically to enable many other things. So, and from both ends basically, from the end of very high volume applications for video streaming, live events and things like that. In the mid, you can do anything with campus networks, for example. You have a specific area, a specific company campus, university campus or something like that, that you can very, from an architecture point, architecture in a very good way, basically to do the coverage and the cover and things like that. And to the very low end on IoT, where you basically have a sensor that over 10 years uses the same battery and distributes only 5 kilobits of data to mark if a parking lot is available or blocked. And with many other things that come up, I don't want to overuse the term of autonomous driving or e-mobility, but there are so many applications that come up that can only be efficiently enabled by technologies such as 5G. And this is where we all have some on the radar and work on that to enable and empower those businesses and business models itself.
Okay. Sander, within your network and within the platforms you have service and develop, how is 5G actually coming into your landscape? Because by the end of the day, everything is data. We know. And how does it affect actually the business model of Xperio? And on the other hand, translating and bridge it immediately to let's say your peers, your clients. How can you support them?
Yeah, well, we're keeping a very close watch on the whole 5G development, and it's still very early days. But at the same time, it's a very exciting one because it's going to be able, we're going to be able to offer our customers even more choice. With the internet growing in importance because you're going to the cloud and with software-defined WAN, having multiple diverse connectivity options at a location is very important, and you don't always have that choice. So 5G could be one way in order to have that technology diversity, and maybe one fiber and one then on 5G, still with a quality guarantee because of the slicing capability of 5G, which is something we can't do today using 4G or 3G technology. So that in itself is very, very exciting. But the world is also very big. If we're sitting here in Berlin, if I look at where everybody in the panel is sitting, this is a very, very well-connected, highly dense part of the world. If we go across Africa, Middle East, so areas across Asia Pacific, connectivity is not a commodity yet. So you see there's this continuous need for another connectivity option. What you see, especially in those areas where technology has been lagging behind, quality wireless enables them to kind of properly through that technology. So I think with 5G, now you're going to be able to see that. You've seen it across the African continent as well. They skipped the whole copper, invested in fiber that never was there, but everybody works with 2 mobile phones because the mobile networks roll out very quickly. So I think, especially for those type of areas, once they are able to enable 5G, it's going to make a big difference for our clients as a connectivity option.
Okay, so it's actually value, what you're saying.
Real value.
It's a value add to your business proposition to your clients and peers within the market.
Absolutely.
Okay, Paul. It's always difficult, but we have to come to a roundup. Actually, what do you foresee in the future, and what's coming to us within the topic we today? Even if it's quite generic, we discussed it, but how do you foresee, let's say, a little bit the near future for us, and from Deutsche Telekom and TPI, what can we expect coming ahead of us?
Good question.
I want to know the answer.
Yeah.
That's what we all want.
There are several answers for your question, I believe, indeed. For TTI, we are still a fairly simple wholesale operator, but even as such, we are right now going over so many big changes because of the changing world around us. So it's difficult even to list. But for TTI, I can tell you, we are just about to open our new backbone, which will connect Turkey with Western Europe on 2 brand new routes, targeting, thinking also the 5G, which requires very raw RTD values, securing the highest speed, shortest connection among the major points of Europe. And I see the same, not just concentrating on TTI, but if I look around, the big operators in Europe, like GTT, Colt, Vodafone, others, all do the same. So all changes DWDM systems, start to deploy new generation backbone equipment, backbone systems, all serving very secure, fast routes with high availability and extreme high speeds.
Sorry for the noise out there, but just something fell, and it were not my glasses. So.
No, I mean, it all requires the very high speed, very high bandwidth options, and very fast delivery. Everything must be fast.
Okay. Well, you know, you have a colleague in the market, and he was just telling us that in Asia and APAC, things are going faster and faster. So this is what we can learn from. And of course, I'm talking about Bernard from Telstra. So Bernard, but how do you see what's coming towards us within, let's say, the scope of the digitalization? What do you see? What do you foresee?
So you look, I mean, I think we've seen a little bit of the future, to be honest, over the last 6 months, right? Because it's been shown that you know, it's easier to work from home than people thought it was, and maybe that's actually changing people's view of what's, you know, of ways to work, right? What we're certainly seeing as well is that Sander was talking about the fact that, you know, some parts of Asia, Africa and other regions are kind of behind a little bit, and, you know, whilst we talk about high-speed fiber and all that kind of stuff, that's limited to certain markets, which is true. But what we're definitely seeing is that the growth is percolating out to some of the what would have been called second-tier markets. So the focus is moving away from the Hong Kong, Tokyo, Singapore kind of cluster, and out towards Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia. I mean, Equinix just made an acquisition in India only 2 weeks ago. So you can see that the focus is moving out to some of those other markets, which maybe weren't that well connected. We've seen, you know, many companies have got themselves into trouble in India and the Philippines, where they had all of their projects outsourced to those countries, and then in each of those countries they all had to work from home all of a sudden, but the infrastructure wasn't set up to work from home. And that's driving a lot of change in those markets too, because they realize that they need to be in the world of COVID. They also need better connectivity from home, and so that's driving infrastructure investment in some of these markets that would, you know, would have been considered to be second tier. Now, maybe in other parts of the world that's not happening quite as fast, but certainly in Asia we're seeing it. So a massive amount of interest in developing the second tier, so-called second tier markets.
Yeah, and shifting from the usual, let's say, suspects to towards, let's say, new entrant markets, as you mentioned. More
because those markets, you know, 120 million, well, was it 80 million people in Thailand, you know, 240 in Indonesia, over 100 million in Philippines. Big markets,
small volume, just small volumes, right?
Or 1 billion in India, right? So
there you
plus
go.
1.5 billion almost.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Bernard. Ignacio, just quickly from your side.
Two quick ones, Eric. The first one, I think we have to keep always an eye on the customer and to understand what they require and how it evolves and how do we need to transform ourselves to respond to them better. And on the other side, and maybe it's beyond today's chat, but I think we will see, because of the COVID situation, more and more M&A activity in the next years.
Okay, thank you, Ignacio. Mr. Melvin from Rome, give us your thoughts. What are we expecting?
Speaking for myself, you know, I'm dealing with mobile connectivity, which is heavily related to the roaming and traveling business. So yeah, I really hope that things will get back a little bit more to normal in a short while. But anyway, yeah, the importance is to stay safe for the moment. So yeah.
Perfect.
I hope we all stay safe, but I hope we will be able to see each other face to face in the next event.
I promise you that. I promise you that. Thank you. Sander, what do you see? What do you see, and also from a Spheria point of view, of course, happening in a short period of time? What can we expect?
Well,
within the digitalization?
From Xperio's point of view, the telecom market continues to be very fragmented and very complex. And so our focus is on simplifying that. We're working on what we call Xperio.1, our digital platform, bringing together all of those choices from all of those thousands of partners that we have around the world towards our customers, either through the portal or through APIs, so that we simplify choice and at the same time try to add value so that they can make a data-driven decision. That's our focus for the near future.
Okay, perfect. Max, some famous last words before we're gonna close down here, and then I'll check in the meantime if there's a question, let's say, out from the world or here maybe in the audience, and please make yourself known. But if not, then Max, please give us your famous last words. What can we expect within, let's say, from your scope?
Well, I fully agree with Bernard that we've seen in the past 6 months a snapshot of the future that's coming. And what I take for me personally is that reliability and integrity and availability of networks become more and more important, and therefore security as well. So we all need to have fast and reliable internet, no matter where we are, either mobile from your home or with fiber or with broadband access at any venues where you host those events, or the platforms itself that you use, such as Zoom we are using today, or any cloud computing thing. So the reliability of connectivity to plan on it is getting so much more important as it used to be. And it hopefully becomes more available and in the mind of people that the internet just did not just come out of the plug, such as electric power does.
Okay, thank you very much for those, for that, let's say, scoping a bit of the future. So, gentlemen and everybody out there, I would sincerely want to thank you, and it has been an honor to have all the big names here here surrounded in this in this panel discussion. Sander, thank you very much. Ignacio, thank you. Paul, top always. Bernard, pleasure and honor always. To Rome, Melvin, dankjewel. Thank you so much. And Max, thank you very much for being with us, sharing with your presentation, and sponsoring this panel session. And guys, there's more out there, so please stay tuned, stay here with us, and GCC American community is yours. So back to Laura, thank you so much, and audience, thank you for staying with us.
Dear all, so we are at the end of this panel, and I would like to thank you, Max, for his insightful presentation, and Eric for moderating another panel very successfully. And also I would like to thank our panelists for sharing the valuable knowledge, and our audience, both physical and online, for joining in, listening, and participating. And I will see you in our next panels today and tomorrow. So that's it. Thank you.